Hello, welcome to the next in the series of Trusting in God and looking at the story of Moses. So we are getting ever closer to the end of this kind of series of notes. This week we're going to look at crossing the Red Sea, and then we've got one final week next week as we kind of draw this series, sessions, whatever you want to call it, to a close. So today's verses are Exodus chapter 14, verses 1 to 31. So as I said, we have come to the part where Moses is leading the Israelites across the Red Sea. So if you've not read those verses already, have a pause of the video and have a read now to just catch up with what happens in the story. And I want to encourage you, have a read of these verses, because as much as going into kind of preparing for these notes today, I was like, oh, I know this. I've known this story. I've heard this story so many times. I've read it. I've taught it. I've heard it from being in Sunday school. There was still so much that stood out to me that God has just brought out from this chapter. So please pause and have a read. So, taking it you've read those verses in chapter 14, and we can see that as soon as Pharaoh has realized what he's done by letting the Israelites go, he sees we have lost the labor, I think he calls it the service in my translation. They've lost the slaves, they've lost that labor that was making the country work. And we see that God even says it, doesn't he, in those early verses of this chapter, that Pharaoh's heart is going to be hardened again. And it's kind of like, has he forgotten the plagues that have all gone on, everything that's happened, the destruction, the death, the hurt, the pain that we saw over those previous chapters? It's like it hasn't happened. And we know God is involved in all this as well, but it's like he's forgotten that he's so caught up in having the control over the Israelites, in ruling them, in having them there as their slaves, that everything else doesn't matter. He just wants to get the Israelites back. And we see that God in all of this is saying, I still want the Egyptians to see who I am, truly realize that I am God, I'm the Lord, I am the Saviour of the world. And he wants them to see this and recognize it for themselves, not in a loose way like we might have seen through Pharaoh up until now, but to truly believe and see who God is, and for God's power to help them have to believe in who he is. And as Steve took us through last week, we heard about God leading the Israelites in that part of their journey before they come to crossing the Red Sea. He is leading them on a particular way because he doesn't want them to have to fight the Philistines. And so instead they are led to this camp near the Red Sea, and also that it might look to the Egyptians like they're a bit lost, they're wandering around a bit, they don't know which way to go, they're kind of stuck, a bit aimless. And what that says to them as well, that they're just wandering around in this wilderness desert. The Israelites won't have had time to recruit, train, build any kind of army, let alone have any weapons. So they really are very much defenseless against any attack. Yet going the way God has directed them means it's sea in front of them. And as we now see, Pharaoh's army coming in the other side of them. So Pharaoh is that angry and that determined to get them all back. He gathers his whole army. He gathers every chariot. So I think it says 600 of the best chariots along with all the other chariots of Egypt. He is determined that they are going to catch them, that they are going to bring them all back into Egypt. So every chariot, he's got his officers, horses, troops, horsemen, all sent with him leading the way in his special chariot. And we see that, I guess, with that horsepower, actual horsepower, they overtake them, and so they end up with the Israelites stuck in the middle between the Egyptian army and the Red Sea the other side. We know they're defenseless. They know they're defenseless. And so we see this fear and horror come upon them as they start to grumble and moan and complain to Moses. And as much as they followed God's guiding with the pillars of smoke and fire, they've followed his direction to make camp to where they currently are. They see there is no other way for them to go. There is no way out. And part of me thinks that this, when they stop moaning and complaining, I'm thinking, haven't you been there in Egypt with all that God has done through the plagues? And that after 430 years, you are now out of Egypt. God has got you out. Do you not see the power of God already at work? Yet all they seem to see is what is in front of them, and that there is no way out. And they start in their complaining to Moses. They're saying, basically, we might as well still be slaves in Egypt, because this is not getting us anywhere. It's not getting us any further or into any better situation. And then we see this incredible response from Moses. He's really strong with them, and he tells them what to do in verses 13 and 14. Let me just read this. Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." And some translations put that, instead of to be still, you only need to be silent. Basically, Moses in those verses is saying, stop complaining. Do you not trust God at this point? He's got us this far. We need to stand strong. We need to stand firm in who God is and trust him. What two incredible verses that I think we can really take a lot from these for ourselves. A lot here that actually is great encouragement for what we need to do when we are perhaps feeling like we're in a hard situation, when we're feeling surrounded by so many different things, when we feel like there is no way out, there's no way to go, we are surrounded by everything going on around us and we don't know what to do, we don't know where to go. It's a great question, isn't it? Are we complainers like the Israelites, or can we turn to God, put our trust in him? Are we the kind of people who are trying to figure that way out for ourselves, or are we looking to God to make a way for us? God wants to know our hearts. So this is not me saying don't ever complain or don't ever let your feelings be known to God. He wants to know his hearts. He wants to know our hearts. He wants to know what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and we need to be honest with him, and we need to cry out to him to show him that we want him, that we need him. That's part of the relationship we have with God if we're a follower of him. But are we ready, as Moses puts the call out there, to stand firm? To stand firm in who God is, to trust him, to be silent or to be still and trust him. It doesn't mean we're passive. Actually, to stand firm is a strong action to take. It's not passive. Being silent, being still, being calm, allowing God to rule and reign is not being passive, because we've got to be active in doing that. But are we people that will do that? And then we see this incredible turn of events. The pillar of cloud, instead of leading them, moves behind them. And it becomes this barrier of protection. How awesome is that? The Egyptians are faced with darkness, with night, and they can't see what God is doing the other side of the cloud. And the other side of the cloud for the Israelites, it's like it's daylight. It's like it's day even though it's night. And as Moses obeys God's command over what to do, the waters of the Red Sea divide, so they are able to walk through on dry ground without the Egyptians seeing or realizing what is happening. Let's remember how many people we're talking about here. Over 1 million people are making this journey, are making this exodus out of Egypt. It's going to take some time, even if it's a wide path that God has provided them with, to get across the Red Sea, and so it takes all night, but to them it's like day. And as dawn breaks, the Egyptians see what's happened and they follow, and that's when we read the destruction and the chaos that then happens. The entire army of Pharaoh doesn't survive, and kind of indicates in that as well that Pharaoh could well be dead himself too. What a miracle, what a story of God making a way where there seems to be no way. And at the end of the chapter, we get this incredible moment of recognition of the Israelites seeing what God has done, seeing God has worked his power, has made a way, seeing how he's delivered them as a sign of his greatness, his power, his authority. And it creates in them, it gives them this kind of reverent fear of God, of who he is, but that recognition that they can put their trust in him and he will deliver on his promises to them. What a great thing for us to think on right now. And it just makes me think, what if God helps me put my trust in him? What have I seen God do either in my life or in the lives of those around me that has helped me, give me reason, give me an example, encourage me to keep putting my trust in God, even when times are hard, when I'm feeling that sense of being surrounded by things. An encouragement that he will never leave me. He will never let me down. And I'm saying that in the me, in the my person in that sense. But God is saying this to you all as well. He can make a way when it feels like there is no way. And it might be in an unbelievable, miraculous, over the top almost way that we've seen here with the Red Sea, or it might be in such a small thing, but it's his way. It's how he wants to act. He knows the best way for his plans and his purposes to work out in our lives. So I want to encourage you today, whatever you're at, whether you're in a great place or whether you're feeling that sense of being surrounded by things, that you will remember the awesomeness of God's power. Will remember that he's at work. Even if you're struggling to see it right now, God is at work in our lives every day. And we just need to look to him and trust him in that. God bless.